The stars above Earth Station 9 blinked quietly, as if watching the strange meeting about to take place. A human diplomat named Tom stood near the docking bay, adjusting his collar. His uniform was clean, but worn at the edges. He had seen battles. But this was something new. Peace, talks, marriage, ships had come and gone before. But none like this. The Corellan royal cruiser moved like a silver blade across the dark sky. Its shape was long and elegant, glowing softly with blue lights that traced its surface. This was not a warship, but it came with power. Everyone on the station could feel it. Tom had been chosen by the Human Council to welcome the Chirolans. He was calm and respectful, but inside, his mind raced with questions. Why him? Why now? The doors of the ship opened. A line of armored guards stepped out first. Behind them walked a young woman, tall, graceful, and silent. She wore a flowing, blue robe marked with royal lines. Her dark hair shimmered slightly as she moved, and her eyes watched everything with quiet curiosity. This was Mira, the youngest daughter of the Corellan royal family. Tom stepped forward, bowing slightly. Welcome to Earth territory. I'm Tom. It's an honor. Mira tilted her head, then gave a small nod. Her voice was soft, but firm. We accept your greeting, Tom. You were chosen, yes, by the council. She studied him for a second longer, then smiled just a little. Then I will speak plainly. The Corellan Empire wishes peace with Earth. To seal this, I offer myself for union. Tom blinked. Union? You mean marriage? Yes. There was no hesitation in her voice. Tom wasn't sure what to say. He looked around, but no one moved. The guards behind Mira stood still like statues. His voice came out slower than usual. Why me? Mira stepped closer, her eyes steady. Because your people listen to you, and because you do not rush. The war taught us to fear humans. You taught us to look again. Tom had led a mission once years ago that saved a small Corellan outpost from destruction. He didn't talk about it much, but maybe they remembered. Still, marriage. He cleared his throat. You're offering marriage to build peace between our worlds. Yes, she said. But I must tell you something before you answer. Tom nodded slowly. She looked him in the eyes. I have 3 elder sisters. Corellan law does not allow a union unless they all give approval. And in our tradition, if one accepts, the others may not stay away. Tom raised an eyebrow. Are you saying they would all expect to marry too? Mira nodded. Eventually. You must understand our people see marriage not as a private matter, but a family one. You would be joining more than one heart. Tom stared at her. The silence between them stretched. Then, as if sensing his confusion, Mira added, This is not to trap you. You may walk away, but if you choose me, they will come. He took a deep breath. This was much more than what he'd expected. He thought he was here to talk about trade, culture, peace terms. But now a princess was offering herself now, her whole family through marriage. Will they be angry? Tom asked. That you came first? They already are, she said. With a calm voice, they wanted to meet you before I made the offer. But I moved ahead. Tom looked down at his hands. He wasn't a prince or a leader. He was just a soldier who had learned to talk when the war ended. He looked back at her. And what do you want? Do you want peace? Or do you want me? Mira didn't smile, but her voice was softer now. I saw what you did for our people when you didn't have to. I heard how you spoke with mercy when others wanted blood. I believe you would not take power for power's sake. That is why I chose you, not just for peace. Tom felt the weight of her words settle on him. It wasn't about looks or wealth. It was something deeper, trust, maybe even hope. He gave a small nod. Then I accept the proposal, at least to begin. But I want to meet your sisters. Mira turned her head slightly, as if listening to a voice only she could hear. They are already on their way. Tom raised his eyebrows. Of course they are. Mira looked up at him again. I will stay here, on your station, until they arrive. But know this once they come. You will not be choosing just one of us. You will be choosing all. He sighed. That's a lot of responsibility. She simply replied, that is marriage. For us, the stars above continued to blink. But now the station felt less like metal and wires and more, like a place between two worlds. Tom had just taken the first step into something far bigger. Then peace talks. He turned and walked beside her through the station halls. Officers and crew stopped to stare at the strange sight, one human, one alien, walking shoulder to shoulder, heading toward a future neither of them fully understood. And in the distance, 3 royal ships moved quietly through space, carrying sisters who would not be left behind. Tom stood near the station window, watching 3 glowing ships approach. They were royal class, smooth and sharp like swords in the sky. His mind was full of questions. Just 2 days ago, he was preparing for a normal treaty mission. Now, he had accepted a proposal from a Corellan princess and was about to meet her 3 sisters. Beside him, Mira stood calmly. She wore a soft silver robe today. Her long hair was tied back. She looked peaceful, but Tom could tell she was thinking deeply. "They will arrive soon," she said. "Should I be nervous?" Tom asked with a dry smile. Mira looked at him. "They are not cruel, but they are strong. Each one is different." Tom nodded slowly. "I suppose that's what makes families interesting." He didn't know what to expect. Mira was kind, respectful, and soft-spoken. Would her sisters be the same, or would they fight him like a test? The docking bay lights turned red, then green. The first ship landed. Steam hissed as the door opened. Out walked a tall woman in dark armor. Her eyes were sharp, her walk firm. She looked like someone who didn't need guards. Her name was Lena, the oldest sister, and a Corellan general. Behind her came the second. She wore a thick tool belt and had a strange glowing device on her arm. Her fingers moved as if always building something, even when empty. Her name was Ressa, a master of machines and engineering. Then came the last one. She didn't wear armor or tools. She wore a long dark cloak and held a folded tablet. Her eyes moved like a hawk's, watching everything. Her name was Kira, a sharp-minded strategist. The 3 sisters stood in front of Tom. He bowed slightly. "Welcome. I'm Tom." Lana's voice was deep and steady. "We know who you are." Ressa tilted her head. "You don't look very royal." Kira just crossed her arms. "And yet Mira chose you." Tom stood calmly. "I didn't come here to impress. I came to help build peace." Lena stepped forward. "Do you know what it means to take a royal bride?" "Human," Tom replied. "I'm starting to learn." Ressa looked at Mira. "You should have waited." "I made my choice," Mira said simply. Kira's eyes narrowed. "We are not angry that you chose. We are angry that you chose alone." Mira looked at them one by one. "You never trusted outsiders." "I did. That was the difference." The tension in the room grew. Tom raised a hand. "I didn't come here to divide a family." "If you don't want this," Lena interrupted him. "It's not that simple. Our tradition is old. If one sister chooses a bond, the others must be given a chance. That's how balance is kept. That's how power stays united." Tom looked confused. "You mean you must also marry me?" "Not must," Kira said coldly. "But if we accept you, it becomes a shared bond. It is not about romance. It is about unity." Ressa stepped forward. "And to accept you, we must know you. We will not trust you just because Mira does." Tom nodded. "Then let's talk. Ask what you want. I'll answer." Lena raised an eyebrow. "Talking is easy, but truth shows best in action. We don't want your words. We want your strength, your loyalty, your patience." Tom looked at Mira. "Is this another test?" Mira answered softly. "It's their way." Lena stepped closer. "You will spend time with each of us. Separately, we will see your heart. Then, we decide." Tom kept his voice steady. "Then I accept your challenge." Ressa gave a small smile. "Good. We start tomorrow. Bring strong boots." "Why?" Tom asked. "You'll see," she replied, walking past him with a curious grin. Kira didn't smile. She stared at him a little longer, then turned away. "We will see what the human is truly made of." The 3 sisters left the room one by one. The air felt cooler after they were gone. Tom turned to Mira. "They don't like me. They don't know you yet," Mira said. Tom gave a small laugh. "They might throw me into a volcano." Mira smiled for the first time that day, If they do, climb out. That will impress them. Tom walked with her down the corridor. The station felt different now. Before, it was a place of peace talks. Now it was a testing ground. A place where four sisters would decide whether one human could truly join their world. He looked at Mira. Why did you really pick me first? She paused before answering. Because you do not run, even when you don't understand something. You face it. That is rare. Tom didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. If he wanted peace between Earth and the Corellan Empire, he had to earn the trust of all four sisters, not just with words, but with actions. And starting tomorrow, he would begin that journey. The next morning, Tom woke up early. The space station was still quiet. The artificial lights above had just shifted to a warm yellow, signaling the start of a new day. He stood by the window, thinking about what was coming. The sisters had made it clear he would face 3 trials, not for sport or fun, but to prove something to them. They wanted to see who he really was. Mira entered quietly. She wore a soft blue robe. Her hair was tied behind her head in a simple style. Are you ready? She asked. I don't know, Tom said, giving a small smile. But I'll try. She nodded. Lena will come for you soon. Remember, she watches actions more than words. Before Tom could reply, the door opened, and Lena stepped in. She was wearing dark gray armor. Her expression was serious, like a soldier going to battle. Follow me, she said. Tom grabbed his jacket and followed her through the halls. No one spoke. They stepped into a transport ship and flew down to a training field on a nearby moon. The ground was rocky and dry. A group of Corellan warriors was already waiting. Lena turned to him. This is where soldiers learn discipline. You will complete 1 full day of training with them. Tom looked at the others. They stood in perfect rows, tall and focused. He nodded. All right. The training was hard. The Corellan warriors ran across rough land, climbed stone walls, and lifted heavy blocks. Tom wasn't as fast as them, but he didn't stop. Sweat ran down his face, and his arms burned, but he pushed forward. Lena watched from a distance. She didn't speak, but she saw everything. At one point, a warrior beside Tom fell during a climb. Without thinking, Tom turned back and helped him up. The warrior gave him a surprised look, then nodded with respect. By the end of the day, Tom was covered in dust. His legs ached, but he was still standing. Lena walked up to him. You don't match our strength, she said, but you have spirit, and you do not leave others behind. Is that enough? Tom asked. She looked at him for a moment. It's a start. They flew back in silence, but Tom noticed something new in her eyes, not coldness, but respect. The next day, it was Ressa's turn. She arrived with a small hovercraft, filled with tools and devices. I hope you're not afraid of machines, she said with a grin. Tom smiled. Only the ones that explode. Ressa laughed. Good, then let's build one. They flew to a repair station floating above the Corellan Sea. Inside, broken machines and half-finished ships were everywhere. We're fixing a power relay, she said. Without it, this place goes dark. Tom rolled up his sleeves. Just tell me what to do. Ressa handed him a tool. Try not to fry your fingers. They worked for ours. Wires sparked. Panels opened and closed. Ressa moved quickly, explaining. As she went, Tom didn't understand everything, but he followed her lead. At one point, the relay overloaded. A blue spark shot out, and smoke filled the air. Tom reached out and cut the power with his bare hand, burning his palm slightly. Ressa rushed over him. Are you mad? He shook his hand and smiled. Better a small burn than a full fire. She stared at him, then shook her head. You're strange, but useful. They laughed together. By sunset, the relay was fixed. The lights in the station glowed again. Ressa crossed her arms and leaned on a wall. You're not an engineer, but you listened. You learned. That's more than I expected. Tom looked at his hand. Well, I learned that power cables bite. Ressa chuckled. You did well. The third day, Kira arrived. She wore a dark robe, her eyes sharp as always. No tools, no running, she said. Just talk. Tom followed her into a small room with a round table. A screen showed maps of different planets, numbers flashed, messages scrolled. "This is a political test," she said. "You will handle a mock crisis between two colonies. I will play the council leader. You must convince me to avoid war." Tom sat down. "Let's try." The test began. Kira asked hard questions. She changed her tone, switched opinions, and challenged his answers. Tom stayed calm. He asked questions. He listened. He found a middle path, offering both sides something they could accept. He didn't shout. He didn't try to win. He tried to understand. Kira leaned back when it ended. "You don't control the room," she said. "But you made it listen." Tom shrugged. "Sometimes people just want to be heard." She tapped the table. "You may not be a leader in the way we know it, but you are something else." "What's that?" "A bridge." That evening, the four siblings sat together for the first time. Mira looked at her sisters. "Well," Lena spoke first, "he doesn't quit, and he doesn't leave people behind. I respect that." Ressa smiled. "He's clumsy with tools, but he doesn't panic. I like that." Kira didn't smile. "He doesn't act like a prince." "That might be we need him." Tom looked at them. "Does that mean I passed?" Mira turned to him. "It means they're listening now." Tom leaned back. "That's good, because I'm just getting started." For the first time, all four of them smiled together, and far above, the stars watched as one human began to change not just a family but an empire. The days passed, and Tom found himself more involved in the lives of the four Corellan sisters. He trained with Lena, fixed small machines with Ressa, discussed council matters with Kira, and spent peaceful moments walking through the station garden with Mira. But as things seemed to move forward, something under the surface was changing. One evening, the sisters gathered in the meeting hall. Tom wasn't there. Mira had asked him to rest after a long training session. The sisters sat around a low table, silent at first. Lena was the one to break the silence. "We can't all pretend this is simple." Ressa looked up. "What do you mean?" Lena's voice stayed calm. "We are not for children anymore, and he is not a Corellan. Yet we're walking toward a bond that joins us to him and to each other for life." Kira leaned forward. "We have followed tradition before. What makes this different?" "You know what makes it different," Lena said. Her eyes moved to Mira. This time, the choice was not made by the council. It was made by the youngest, Mira's. Eyes didn't move. "I chose him because no one else dared." "That's exactly the problem," Kira replied. "You didn't wait. You acted alone." Ressa frowned. "But we're past that now, aren't we? We tested him. We saw who he is. We all agreed." "That's not the point," Lena said. "This bond is permanent. Once the full ceremony happens, we become one family under his name. Are we ready for that? Are we even ready to stand beside each other without fighting?" The room fell silent again. Mira spoke at last. Her voice was soft but clear. "I didn't choose him to hurt you. I chose him because I believe in something better for me, for us." Kira looked away. "You always saw the world differently." Ressa nodded slowly. "And maybe that's what we need." But the tension remained. Tom, unaware of the private talk, sat alone in the station's observatory. The stars stretched endlessly in front of him. He held a small device in his hands, given to him by Ressa. It showed a spinning map of the Corellan system. Footsteps approached. Mira stepped into the room, her eyes tired. "Everything okay?" Tom asked. Mira sat beside him. "Yes and no." He waited. "There is something you must understand," she said. "Corellan sisters are trained to lead, not to follow. We were not raised in peace. We were raised in duty." Tom looked at her. "I've seen how strong they are and how divided." Mira nodded. "When we were young, the council made us compete for attention, for control, even for love. It made us proud, but also distant." Tom turned the device off. "And now you're being asked to unite, not just through blood, but through a bond to someone outside your world." "Yes," Mira said. "And though we are trying, old feelings rise." Tom spoke slowly. "Do you think they will reject the union?" Mira shook her head. "No, but if we're not careful, we may enter it with quiet anger. That is worse, Tom thought for a moment. Then he said, maybe they need to see something real. Not just plans or trials, something true. Mira looked at him. Like what? He smiled. A dinner. Just the five of us. No guards, no titles, no talks of treaties or bonds. Just a table, some food, and the chance to speak freely. Mira seemed surprised. You want to host them like family? Tom nodded. Because that's what we're trying to become. And families don't always start with politics. The next evening, the sisters received a message. You are invited to a private meal in the observation deck. No armor, no tools. Just come as you are. Tom, when they arrived, the room had changed. The lights were softer. The chairs were arranged. In a circle, a warm meal waited on a central table. No guards stood nearby. Tom stood by the window, wearing a simple dark shirt. You came, he said with a smile. Lena looked around. This doesn't feel like a royal gathering. It's not, Tom said. It's just dinner. Ressa chuckled. You humans are strange. They sat together. For a moment, it was quiet. Then, Tom poured each of them a cup of spiced tea, a blend Mira had introduced him to. He lifted his cup. To Nupas, he said. The others raised their cups. Slowly, the talk began. Ressa told a funny story about a robot exploding during a test. Lena shared how she once disarmed a wild beast with nothing but a rope and her boots. Kira didn't speak much, but she listened closely. Mira smiled more than she had in days. Tom listened, laughed, and asked questions. He didn't lead the conversation. He let it flow. At one point, Lena asked, what do you really want from this, Tom? From us? Tom thought for a moment. I don't want power. I don't want control. I want connection. I've seen too much war. I've lost too many people. I want to help build something better. If that means standing beside you, I will. But only if all of you truly want that too. The room was quiet again. Then Kira spoke. Her voice was low. You speak like no one we've known. That's why. We fear you. But maybe that's why Mira chose you. Lena nodded slowly. Maybe she saw what we missed, and in that quiet, something shifted. The rift that had sat between them for years softened just a little. Later, as they left the room, Mira walked beside Tom. They needed this, she said. More than I realized. Tom smiled. We all did. And behind them, for the first time in many years, the sisters walked together, not as rivals, not as leaders, but as something closer to what they were meant to be, family. Peace returned to the space station. After the quiet dinner, the four sisters began speaking more openly. There was still tension, but it was softer now. Tom could feel the difference. They no longer looked at each other like rivals. They started acting like a real team. Tom continued spending time with each of them. Lena took him to the weapon training hall and showed him how to use Corellan energy staffs. Ressa taught him how to open small machines without damaging their power cores. Kira even gave him her notes on Corellan diplomacy, saying, you might need these if the council ever throws you into a meeting without warning. And Mira stayed close, always watching, always understanding more than she said. A grand gathering was planned for the next day. Human and Corellan leaders would meet on the main deck of the station to confirm the beginning of a full peace treaty. Tom's bond with the royal family had brought both sides to the table. The sisters would be there. Tom would stand beside them. It felt like the start of something big. That night, a shadow moved through the lower levels of the station. The guards were few in number and easy to avoid. The figure placed a small device under one of the main power lines near the station core. It blinked red once, then turned silent. The next day, the station was alive with voices, lights, and ceremony. Delegates walked through shining carters. Flags from both Earth and Corellan worlds decorated the halls. News channels from several planets sent drones to capture the event. Tom stood near the platform where the speeches would take place. He adjusted his collar, watching the people arrive. Lena, Ressa, Kira, and Mira stood beside him, each in royal dress. You look more like a prince than a soldier, Ressa joked. Tom grinned. It's the first time I've worn something this fancy since ever. Mir gave him a calm look. Just speak from your heart. That's enough. A deep bell rang. The ceremony began. The Earth Commander stepped forward and gave a short speech about hope and unity. Then the Corellan Council leader spoke about strength through understanding. Tom's turn came next. He walked to the center and looked out at both sides, humans and Corellans standing together. I am not a ruler, he began. I am not a hero. I'm someone who saw a chance for peace and decided to step forward. He looked toward the sisters. I didn't expect any of this. Not the bond, not the respect, not the honor. But I've come to believe that the path forward must be walked together. No one leads. No one follows. We move as one. The crowd stayed silent, listening. And if I, a human, can stand beside for Corellan sisters, then anyone can learn to understand those who seem different. People nodded. Some clapped. But just as Tom stepped back, the lights flickered. Then everything went dark. The emergency lights flashed red. Warning signals rang out. A low voice echoed through the station. Power core unstable. Cooling system damaged. Evacuation advised. Tom turned to the sisters. This isn't an accident. Lena pulled out a scanner. Sabotage. I'm reading something planted near the lower core. Kira's eyes sharpened. It was placed during the night. Security was low. Ressa grabbed her toolkit. If we don't fix it, the station will overheat and drift into the planet's pull. Mira looked at Tom. We must move now. Without wasting a second, they ran deep in the station's lower levels. Heat filled the halls. The air buzzed. With tension, sparks jumped from power panels. Smoke leaked from the walls. Ressa knelt beside the damaged system. I need time to remove the device. It's linked to the core. If I cut it wrong, it will explode. I'll help, Tom said. Lena took out her staff. Kira, secure the hallway, if this was planned. Someone might still be here. Kira nodded and moved down the passage quietly. Mira stayed close to Tom, helping Ressa open the tight locks. Suddenly, a sharp noise came from the left corridor. A figure appeared from the smoke. A Corellan in dark armor. His eyes burned with anger. You've weakened us, he shouted. We were never meant to bow to humans. He lifted a weapon. Lena rushed forward, blocking the first shot with her staff. The beam flew past them and hit the wall. Tom shielded Ressa while she kept working. Lena fought the attacker in close combat. Her strikes were fast and powerful. The attacker was skilled, but Lena was stronger. She brought him down with a heavy blow and tied his hands with wire. Who sent you? She demanded. He growled. The Empire belongs to us, not to outsiders. Kira arrived and took control of the prisoner. Meanwhile, Ressa called out, It's ready. I just need someone to reset the main switch. It's deep inside the panel, she added. I can't fit my arm in. Tom stepped forward. I'll do it. Mira grabbed his hand. It's too dangerous. Tom looked at her. We don't have time. He slid his hand into the narrow panel. Sparks burned his sleeve, but he kept going. His fingers found the switch. He turned it slowly. The red lights faded. Then the station lights turned back on. Power returned. The alarms stopped. Cheers rose across the station. Later, in the recovery chamber, Tom sat on a bench, his arm wrapped in bandages. The sisters stood around him. You nearly lost your hand, Ressa said. But I didn't, Tom replied. Thanks to you. Kira nodded. You kept calm under fire. That's rare, Lena added. You fought beside us, not behind us. Mira stepped forward and took his hand gently. You risked everything. For us, for all of them. Tom gave a tired smile. That's what family does. Right, for the first time. All four sisters looked at him, not just with respect but with something deeper. Trust. The station had almost fallen, but instead, a bond had grown stronger. And soon, the Empire would remember this moment not as the day of sabotage but as the day when a human saved them all. The station was safe again. Repairs began immediately, and the Human Corellan Treaty ceremony was rescheduled. But even as the lights turned back on and the halls were cleaned, something had changed. The attack had shaken the council. Some Corellan leaders were worried. A few even began to whisper, Can we really trust a human at the center of our royal line? Tom heard the rumors, but he stayed quiet. He didn't come here for power or fame. He came to help. And now, he stayed because of the sisters Lena, Ressa, Kira, and Mira. Each one had a different strength. Each one had begun to trust him. But the future of their world wasn't fully decided yet. That morning, a message arrived, the royal sisters and the human Tom are summoned to the High Council Hall. The final test will be given. Mira read the message aloud. Lena frowned. Test? We saved the station. What more do they want? Kira spoke calmly. They want to test his heart, his mind, his loyalty. Ressa crossed her arms. They want to see if he deserves us. Tom looked at them all. Then let's go. I'm ready. The High Council Hall was an ancient place, large stone columns, gold walls, and a circle of raised seats where the council elders sat. Bright light fell through the ceiling, lighting the center stage. Tom stood with the four sisters behind him. The elders watched in silence. An old voice spoke. Human Tom, you formed a bond with the royal bloodline. You stood beside the sisters. In war and peace, you helped stop sabotage. But today, we ask, do you truly understand what it means to take all four of them as your companions? Tom stayed still, his voice steady. No, but I'm willing to learn, and I will never walk away from them. A second elder leaned forward. Words are not enough. Each sister will give you one challenge. If you fail, you must leave. The hall fell silent. Tom turned and looked at the sisters. None of them had expected this, but they had no choice. Now Mira stepped forward first. Mira's test. Truth held out a glowing stone. This is the heart stone. It reacts to hidden thoughts. Hold it, and speak your reason for staying with us. If you lie, it will dim. Tom took the stone. It warmed in his hand. I stay, he said slowly, because each of you gave me a reason to believe in something better. I stay because I care. Not just for one of you, for all of you. The stone glowed bright blue. Mira smiled, just a little, and stepped back. Kira's test. Kira placed 3 data pads on a table. One holds Earth's military secrets. One holds Corellan Empire secrets. One is empty. You may only open one. Tom walked up, reading the small markings. Kira explained. Many would use this moment for power. But the right choice is not the one that gives the most strength. Choose wisely. Tom picked the empty one. Kira raised an eyebrow. Why? He answered, if I need to earn trust, I won't steal it. She gave a short nod. Accepted. Ressa's test. Skill. Ressa led him to a console connected to a broken shield generator. This system is old. We use it to test new engineers. You have 5 minutes to fix it. If you don't, it will trigger a false alarm, and the council will end the trial. Tom sat down. He opened the panel carefully, wires sparking in front of him. Mira whispered to the others. He watched Ressa fix one like this before. He was paying attention. Tom adjusted the circuits, reconnected a faded cable, and tapped the reboot key. The generator powered up. No alarm. Ressa smiled. Nicely done. Lina's test. Strength. Lina handed Tom a combat stick. You will face me in sparring. No power suits. No armor. Show me what you've learned. Tom knew Lina was faster, stronger, and far more trained. But this wasn't about winning. It was about heart. They circled each other. Lina struck first. Tom blocked, barely. He stepped back and found his stance again. Strike after strike. He stayed up. His arms grew tired. His legs burned. But he did not quit. At last, Lina stepped back. That's enough. You held your ground. She lowered her weapon. He passed. The four sisters returned to Tom's side. The council whispered among themselves. Then the lead elder stood. You faced truth, choice, skill, and strength. You passed. But the final word belongs to the sisters. The hall fell quiet again. Mira spoke. Softly. I trust him. Kira added. He respects all of us, not just one. Ressa said. He listens. He learns. Lina finished. He stands by us, even when it's hard. The council elder raised his hand. Then it is decided. The human may stand with all four, daughters of the crown, From this moment, the bond is honored. The treaty is sealed. And this station, in our empire, will remember this day forever. Cheers rose through the hall. Tom stood in shock as the sisters stepped closer to him, each placing a hand on his shoulder, arm, or back. You didn't give up, Mira said. You chose the hard path, Kira added. You passed every test, said Ressa. Lena grinned. Now you're one of us. Tom looked around. Soldiers, council members, engineers, and humans all cheered together. This wasn't just a personal victory. This was the beginning of something far greater. Tom stood on the grand balcony of the Corellan capital ship, looking at the stars. The sky was clear, and the stars shone like never before. He had been through battles, tests, and moments of doubt. But now, things felt different, calmer, real. The treaty was signed. The bond between Tom and the four royal sisters was no longer questioned. Still, something inside him was unsettled. Not fear, not confusion, just one last question. What happens now? Footsteps echoed behind him. It was Mira, the quietest of the sisters. You're thinking again, she said with a small smile. Tom nodded. I just don't know what I become. Now, Mira joined him, standing beside him. You don't have to become anything. Just stay who you are. Tom smiled a little. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Later that day, a celebration was held inside the royal hall. It was a mix of human and Corellan traditions. People from both worlds were invited. The air was filled with music and laughter. Tom sat at the main table, surrounded by Lena, Ressa, Kira, and Mira. They each wore simple but elegant robes, colors matched with their own styles. Lena wore deep red and gold. Ressa chose dark silver with green highlights. Kira wore ocean blue. Mira's robe was soft white and pale purple. They looked different, but together. They were a strong force. A Corellan child came up to Tom and asked, Are you a prince now? Tom blinked, unsure how to answer. He looked at Lena. She chuckled. No, he's not a prince. Ressa leaned in. He's more like a star guide. Mira added, a protector. Kira smiled, a part of something bigger than a title. Tom laughed gently. I guess I'm just me. The child smiled and ran off as the celebration continued. Tom noticed General Varric, an older Corellan officer who had once doubted him, standing at the side. Tom walked over. You okay, General? Varric nodded slowly. I was wrong about you, human. I thought you were just lucky. But now I see. You chose the harder road each time. Tom replied, I didn't do it for praise. I just did what I thought was right. Varric gave a small nod. That's why it mattered. Later that night, the sisters gathered with Tom on a quiet part of the ship near the observation dome. It was peaceful. Only the hum of the ship could be heard. Lena sat on the edge of a couch, stretching her legs. You know, our people expect a future now. Trade, peace, maybe even schools for both sides. Kira nodded. Language sharing, culture exchange. That will take years. Ressa grinned. And we're going to be busy. Tom raised his eyebrow. You think I can help with that? Mira said softly. You already are. Kira looked at him seriously. But you have a choice, Tom. We never forced you. You can go back to Earth, live your life. No one will blame you. Tom looked at each of them. He had already made his decision days ago. But now, it was time to say it clearly. I don't want to go back, he said. My home is here, with all of you. There was silence for a moment. Then Lena stood up and slapped his back. Well said. Human, weeks passed. Things moved fast. A joint team of human and Corellan engineers began to upgrade space stations. Medical ships were launched to help war-torn planets. Young cadets trained together. Tom, along with the sisters, helped guide meetings between two very different worlds. Some days were easy, others filled with debates and long hours. Still, Tom never gave up. The sisters never let him stand alone. Each of them found their place in this new chapter. Lena took over military training for new Corellan officers and helped start peace drills. Ressa became the lead tech developer for mixed human teams. Kira handled policy writing and treaty development with Earth officials. Mira worked on education, creating learning programs for both human and Corellan children, and Tom, he moved between, all of them listening, supporting, leading when needed, and always staying grounded. One evening, during a break, the five of them sat under a star field on a quiet moon. Tom looked up. "Do you ever wonder how this all started?" Ressa laughed. "You mean the part where you were just a repairman fixing a gate, and then ended up stuck with 4 sisters?" Kira added. "He didn't even know how to speak properly at first." Lena smiled. "He fought back the first time we met," Mira said gently. "But he stayed when he could have run." Tom chuckled. "Yeah, maybe it was fate." "No," Lena said. "You made choices, and they led you here," Mira added, "and we're glad you did." In the end, Tom never took a crown. He never claimed power or position. But across Corellan space, and even on Earth, his name began to mean something. Not because he was a hero, but because he cared, because he stood beside those who believed in unity, because he never wanted to stand above anyone, only with them. And so, the story of a human and 4 alien sisters became something more, a legend of trust, a promise of peace, and the beginning of a future where no world stood alone.